Network modernization is critical to agency efficiency. Ciena's adaptive network can help agencies optimize existing workloads while incorporating new technologies. How? The adaptive network is built on a full suite of intelligent network hardware, software, and services. Combining these, Ciena helps agencies upgrade from legacy technologies, including SONET and TDM, to modern packet technologies, while continuing to meet complex mission demands. To learn more, visit ciena.com/government.
To the stage, Colonel Suk Kim, DISA chaplain, to provide an invocation for this meal.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Let's pray before we eat for this awesome conference. Let us pray. Almighty God, we stand before you with a heart full of gratitude as we gather at this TechNet Cyber Conference. We thank you for your constant presence in our lives, guiding and directing us towards success and victory. We ask that your powerful influence permeates every aspect of this event, from the military to industry and academia, as we come together to discuss and plan for persistent engagement, presence, and innovation. Let us unite as one to conquer and deter our adversaries' attacks on our cyberspace and emerge stronger and more resilient in the face of future challenges. As we gather here today, we humbly ask for your blessings and guidance as we embark on this journey of change and transformation. Remind us that change is not new, and that to live is to change, and to be perfect is to have changed often. Help us develop a mindset of resilience and adaptability, to be willing to accept new ideas and embrace necessary and healthy changes. May this conference be a beacon of hope and inspiration, filled with purpose and meaning. As we strive toward a brighter future, bless our fellowship together in this place and the food which strengthen our bodies. May our minds and hearts be at peace and in fellowship one with another. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Kim. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Lieutenant General Susan Lawrence, United States Army retired, President and CEO, AFCEA International.
Good afternoon. I love hearing the buzz in here, but if I could just have your attention for a moment, please. Before we serve today's lunch, we would like to recognize a longtime friend. If we could bring up our slide. Today, we honor an AFCEA legend. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could just have your moment, please. Thank you. The Honorable John G. Grimes, the former Assistant Secretary of Defense for Networks and Information Systems and Information Integration, held a senior technical staff position with the National Communications Systems Defense Communications Agency following his military service in the United States Air Force. Honorable Grimes served as a member of the AFCEA Executive Committee and Board of Directors, and was the recipient of AFCEA's most prestigious award, the David Sarnoff Award in 2009. Honorable Grimes passed away on April 14th, and we were able to recognize him last night with the Chairman's Superior Performance Award. He was made aware that he was receiving the award before we lost him. He will be sorely missed. Thank you. So thank you for your attention, and lunch will now be served. Please enjoy your meal, and our presentation from General Skinner will begin shortly. Thank you.
Network modernization is critical to agency efficiency. Ciena's adaptive network can help agencies optimize existing workloads while incorporating new technologies. How? The adaptive network is built on a full suite of intelligent network hardware, software, and services. Combining these, Ciena helps agencies upgrade from legacy technologies, including SONET and TDM, to modern packet technologies, while continuing to meet complex mission demands. To learn more, visit ciena.com/government.
Good afternoon. I hope you all enjoyed or continue to enjoy your lunch. Again, great support from our staff here at the Convention Center, and we appreciate everything. Now, as we begin our program, I'd like to personally thank Sienna and Lumen for their support of today's opening keynote. They are represented today by George Holland, Vice President and General Manager, Sienna Government Solutions, and Scott Barnett, Vice President, Sales at Lumen. I'd like to invite to the stage Scott Barnett to introduce our guest speaker, sir.
Thank you, General Lawrence. Thank you, AFCEA, for hosting what I'm sure will be another incredible event this week. And a special thank you to Sienna and George Holland, our long-standing partner at these incredible events. And on behalf of Lumen Technologies and as a key global mission partner to DISA, Joint Force Headquarters, and the Department of Defense, it is my honor and privilege to introduce this afternoon's keynote speaker, Lieutenant General Robert J. Skinner. As the Director of the Defense Information Systems Agency, General Skinner manages a global network and leads nearly 19,000 service members, civilians, and contractors who plan, develop, deliver, and operate an enterprise infrastructure in more than 42 countries. This mission directly supports the President, the Secretary of Defense, Joint Chiefs of Staff, combatant commanders, the U.S. Department of Defense components, and other mission partners across a wide spectrum of operations. As Commander of Joint Force Headquarters DODIN, he is charged with leading a unified action across the DoD to secure, operate, and defend the DoDIN. He leads the establishment of DoDIN priorities and directs threat-informed actions through formal planning and future operational initiatives, as well as the command and control of daily unified network operations, cybersecurity actions, and defensive operations on the DoDIN. Would you please join me in welcoming Lieutenant General Skinner to the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and fellow colleagues, I'm honored to be here today to express my gratitude to AFCEA for hosting this event and providing us with the opportunity to engage in meaningful discussions on the future of information technology and cybersecurity. I'm Lieutenant General Robert J. Skinner, and I am the Director of the Defense Information Systems Agency and the Commander of the Joint Force Headquarters, Department of Defense Information Network. I oversee a global network and lead nearly 19,000 service members, civilians and contractors in planning, developing, delivering, and operating joint, interoperable command and control capabilities while defending our enterprise infrastructure in more than 42 countries. By the way, everything up to this point in my speech was generated and delivered by artificial intelligence.
I am definitely not a good lip seeker. So, but just think of that, right? generative AI, right, I would offer is probably one of the most disruptive technologies and initiatives in a very long, long time. Those who harness that and can understand how to best leverage it, but also how to best to protect against it, are going to be the ones that have the high ground. I read an article the other day, in fact, it was yesterday morning. Johns Hopkins, don't quote me on that, I think it was Johns Hopkins, did a study, and they had 200 questions asking for medical advice. And they put it into generative AI, and then they had a panel of medical experts who looked at the answers, and they came away with saying approximately 80% of those answers were better than what you would get from a medical professional. So think about that. And that's just in the medical profession. Think of the legal profession. We in this room are thinking about how this applies to cybersecurity. How does it apply to intelligence? How does it apply to our warfighting capabilities? And that's where we really need industry's help to help us understand faster and better than the adversary how this capability can be leveraged. I would offer initially, it's probably not really going to help those high-end adversaries, right? Because they're already high-end. This is going to help a whole bunch of other individuals to get up to that level in a much faster manner. So how do we have the protective systems, the security, and the network capabilities to support protecting that data and support our folks? Okay, AFCEA East. I love that. And I'll tell you, hats off to AFCEA International, Sue Lawrence, General Fredenberg, and the whole team. A year ago, we all sat down and said, how can we make this better? And you make it better with firepower. Having General Nakasone this morning, having Mr. Sherman tomorrow, and having this, again, I love the AFCEA East. Bring everybody together. The highest number of registrants before this year was 5,700, and that was pre-COVID. We have surpassed that. So thanks to industry, thanks to everyone here, and as General Lawrence said this morning, the boost, it's just, the exhibit hall is bursting at the seams. So I hope everyone is able to get out, see the greatest, greatest technology as we go forward. A couple things that I want to talk about today. On the Joint Force Headquarters DODIN hat, General Nakasone mentioned a term called set the globe, and we'll get there in a second, because I have a person that I want to bring up here who is leading that charge. But before we get there, what have we been up to? Right, I will tell you the first thing that we've been doing is foundationally defining standards. The Joint Staff, I think last month or 2 months ago, just signed out the Cybersecurity Service Provider standards. That every one of those organizations who provide that function, these are what they're going to be held to as a standard. Network operations is the next thing on our plate to get through the Joint Staff so that all of our force knows exactly what they are responsible for and what they will be assessed against. So laying that foundation has been at the heart of a lot of the work that the professionals at JFHQ-DODIN have been doing. The other thing, who's all heard of the CCRI and that 4-letter word, right? We have a 90-day sprint, we're about 2/3 of the way done, where we are reimagining how that is going to occur. Working with General Kennedy's team and General Barrett's team, working with Admiral Clapperton's, all coming together to figure out how do we really want to do this in the future? What's really important, right? Cross-domain solutions, right? Making sure that they are raise the bar compliant and are configured correctly at all times. forward-facing and boundary capabilities. Focus on those things at the external, and we'll talk about zero trust, because you can't have a speech without zero trust. We'll talk about, but those are the things that the team is looking at to go, how do we do this in the future? But just as important, just as we talked about continuous ATOs previously, well, how do we have continuous assessments? So that we know at any point in time what the posture is, I'll say the cyber posture, of that commander and or director. So that General Kennedy, as the AF Cyber Commander and AF NetOps Commander, knows at any point in time what his posture is like and where there are potential risks. Because then if you're smart, then you send the CCRI teams or others to get after where you see those holes and where your posture is not where it needs to be. Significantly different than what we are doing today. We also have a couple of pilots going on. 6-month pilots, although some may be about 7 months, looking at boundary defense. There are so many capabilities in our boundary that a lot of times there's a lot of collisions going on, I would offer. We're looking at, is there a better way of providing boundary security going forward? And can we leverage commercial capabilities and industry capabilities more than we are today and make it simpler and less complex? Because I would offer the complexity of our boundary and the complexity of our JRSS stacks, as an example, is so complex that we cannot harmonize user experience in cybersecurity. It just can't be done. The other thing that we're working on is secure validation. Leveraging adversary TTPs, how are our defenses operating? Is it nominally? Are they operating the way they are supposed to be? In a lot of instances, we don't know today. We think it is, but there's no automated way of validating that and leveraging technology to do that. So those are two of the pilots that we have going on in Joint Forces Headquarters DODIN. But what I'd like to do is call up Colonel Jen Carnes, who is leading our J35 team in Joint Forces Headquarters DODIN. And she is the spearhead, she is the spirit, she is the brains behind this thing we call Set the Globe, which is in concert with Set the Theater, that the cyber components and the Joint Forces Headquarters are working in support of their combatant commands. So I'll turn it over to Jen real quick to give you a little snippet on what we're doing with Set the Globe, which is the foundation of everything that we are doing in the Joint Forces Headquarters.
Good afternoon, and thank you, General Skinner. Most everyone in the audience can relate to moving, some more frequently than others. I know in our household we move about every 1 to 2 years, and after we find a place to live, one of those first things that we do is set up our home network. Get our internet connection established, get the router, firewall, security settings, just get the home network set up with all your devices online, especially for my 11-year-old. Some homes have everything, computers, phones, hooked up, as well as refrigerators and security alarms. Everything is connected. A simple change to a device can change the network and have far-reaching effects and impact everything else in that home network. It could be a simple misconfiguration, a seemingly innocent click on an email someone sent you, or some hacker trying to get in. Adversaries and malicious actors continually seek to compromise DoD's cyber terrain and put military operations and information at risk. They just need to find a way in to have the potential to compromise not just one device, but all it connects to. And on the DODIN, that means the other 15,000 interconnected networks impact to 3 million users. And unlike other domains, cyberspace is not constrained to geographic boundaries. We need to be on top of our game and focus on cybersecurity all the time. There is no time off when it comes to defending our networks. This is where JFHQ-DODIN's mission to secure, operate, and defend the DODIN comes in to set the globe. So what does that mean exactly? It is setting those basic defensive posture to secure the DODIN. It is assuring defensive cyber missions. It is establishing the necessary conditions in cyberspace that enable full spectrum operations supporting globally integrated operations for the department. It is part of our daily routine as we contest adversary activity. The DODIN is the foundational platform for every military operation, and the cyber domain remains a fast-paced environment where we need persistent engagement. Setting the globe means securing the network, terrain, systems, and data, scaling global cybersecurity overall, increasing shared situational awareness and collaboration, enforcing cybersecurity standards, advancing defensive capabilities, modernizing critical systems, and optimizing operations. There exist priority campaigns in which JFHQ-DODIN focuses these Set the Globe efforts on. This includes contested global logistics, hardening of networks, and mission partner environments in which we work with allies and partners, as well as other federal agencies and the defense industrial base. Setting the globe means supporting combatant commanders' mission objectives and providing the cyber requirements for them to accomplish their warfighting functions. JFHQ-DODIN works with supported combatant commands to make sure their particular areas of responsibility are tended to, that our most sensitive networks are being taken care of in a proactive and consistent manner. We ensure the global environment is set right, enabling mission and terrain owners to set conditions for success within their areas. JFHQ-DODIN is that operational headquarters setting conditions in the cyber domain to enable actively competing and building resiliency to strengthen our cybersecurity posture to deliver effects for whatever is next. How do we maneuver appropriately and pivot based on threats? We need to be the best at competing, so we need to be ready for anything. JFHQ-DODIN is responsible for integrating, synchronizing, and directing threat-informed priority actions to commanders and directors who actively manage risk to the DODIN and risk to DoD essential functions and missions. We direct actions and continuously seek to improve overall posture. We need to be resilient, agile, and secure as we set the globe. We look at how we bring it all together as a unified force with velocity or urgency of action. How is risk today compared to yesterday? What is changing that risk calculus? The different areas of operation have different risks from one another. We place emphasis on establishing standards and readiness of the terrain and cyberspace operational forces and supporting DoD mission capabilities and operational outcomes. The DODIN terrain is broken out into 45 different areas, and we work with these 45 different partners to collectively protect priority cyber terrain and ensure mission assurance. A daily order is sent out to every combatant command, every service, every DoD agency, every field activity to address threats and vulnerabilities. The daily interaction with the components and partners involves sharing cyberspace operations information and intelligence, validating the status of directed cyberspace actions, and providing defensive cyberspace priorities designed to protect the totality of the DODIN environment. So every day we face new challenges, new threats, new vulnerabilities. We continuously work with our partners to develop ways to aggressively posture ourselves and maintain the edge over the adversary. Protecting our network is a team sport. A risk to one is a risk to all. This is what JFHQ-DODIN does to set the globe, and every day is game day. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. And I would tell you, she made it sound real easy, but it's not. Every single day, rheostats are changing as we are directing maneuver and we are directing changes to make sure that the vulnerabilities are not easily exploitable. And so great work by her and the team every day. On the DISA side, right, a lot has happened in the last year that I was up here. And one of the biggest things was our Joint Warfighting Cloud Capability contracts that were let. And, oh, by the way, the first task order has already been executed. 31 different proposals are in the chute right now, working its way through to take full advantage and leverage this capability. Ryan MacArthur and Ms. Woods and team have done an amazing job of working with the services, working with the combatant commands, working with the agencies to determine how best to leverage this contract capability. But I would offer it's even more than a contract. There are so many things that are happening around cloud that it's just not host and compute. They're putting, infrastructure as code around this to where we've had like 29 instances of organizations leveraging our infrastructure as code, which is saving approximately $500,000 an instance that it's already taken care of. The templates are already there, and we're getting them up and leveraging cloud that much faster. We have a DevSecOps capability called Vulcan that is enabling those who need a DevSecOps environment to come use it and take full advantage of everything that it offers to get capabilities out. We have C2SF, which is where we're taking our command and control capabilities, running it through DevSecOps so that it's not every 2 years or every 3 years, that we're having improvements done on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. Robotics process automation. I mean, I was talking to Steve Wallace, so if there's any questions technically, Steve Wallace knows that I'm going to point to him wherever he is at, so he can't get away. 50 bots that we're using, which is saving hundreds and thousands of hours. And we got 219 that we've identified to go after to continually improve our automation and the things that we are doing. It's just amazing work by the team. And you cannot have a discussion without talking zero trust, right? We talked that earlier. Thunderdome, right? We had the pilot that we just completed a few months ago. Jason Martin and team are working through the acquisition strategy to be able to go full production here in the next 30, 60 days. That's what I put on him. We'll see how that goes. But Thunderdome is more than just that pilot, though, right? I know it's SD-WAN, I know it's SASE, and a few other capabilities. But under our Thunderdome umbrella, it is a lot more than that. It's what's happening at the client. It's what's happening in the data analytics. Looking across the entirety of what Zero Trust brings in those 7 pillars or 5, depending on which one you subscribe to. Out of the 153-ish key activities identified in the DoD Zero Trust strategy, we're at like 123, I think it is, ish. 123 of those of what DISA is offering as a capability, which is huge. And we are working hand in hand with the services because we're all coalescing around the same ConOps, we're all coalescing around the same technology, all coalescing around the same processes. And so we have a lot of momentum within the department in driving forward to reach or to get towards the DoD CIO's mantra of 2020 Zero Trust in 2027 and along that journey. So a lot of great work. But I would offer the foundation of Zero Trust is identity management and what we call our GFUD capability. And that's where I would like to call contestant number 2 to the stage, Gabe Solomon. Okay, this is an individual straight out of high school, came to DISA, can't even have a beverage of choice unless it's milk, been with the agency just a little bit, and this is the person who is running Global Directory for the department. So I'll let him talk at the risk of somebody trying to steal him from me. So industry, hands off, and the rest of the department, hands off. Okay, go ahead, Gabe.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gabe, and I'm a cloud engineer with the DISA Hosting and Compute Center. Today, I'm excited to share with you some of the new capabilities that we've been developing. Now, before we get into any technical details, I want to introduce you to Nick, dog up here. Nick is an active duty military working dog and has been the mascot for Global Directory, also known as GFUD. Now, although I could talk about Nick for forever up here, I'm here to talk about something just as fascinating, which is GFUD. But before we start, let me ask you a few questions. Wouldn't it be cool if you got your device logged in and it just worked? Wouldn't it be cool if we migrated historically manual IT functions into a DevSecOps pipelines? Wouldn't it be cool if we had a true single sign-on capability? Now, the answer to all of these questions is yes, but how we actually get there is way more complicated than just answering a question. Now, from the very beginning, one of our goals with Global Directory was to create a centralized identity source for the entire department to use, and to do so in an agile development method. However, as we get into the details of delivering said identity, we come to the realization that different applications may not support or function well with web-based authentication methods currently in place. To address this issue, we're developing a new Active Directory for us under the Global Directory umbrella with the sole purpose of allowing customers to utilize Kerberos authentication. One of the key use cases for this capability is to allow pre-existing environments to create a one-way trust back to Global Directory to provide user identity and authentication. This means that organizations can maintain their existing equipment and infrastructure while leveraging the security and identity aspects of Global Directory. Now, you may be wondering what this actually means for any mission partners who decide to migrate to Global Directory for their legacy applications and workstation forests. First of all, if you've already started using GFUD, you'll be using the same identity solution that you've been using to log into all of your Office applications to log into your workstations. Second, this takes the hassle of identity management out of your hands for applications or environments that you decide to onboard. Now, to be clear, this isn't the beginning or the end for Global Directory. The program is meant to evolve over time and shape the department's identity and authentication needs. Capabilities will continue to be developed, deployed, and improved upon using the mentioned agile development cycle. Now, moving on to the cloud, we've been piloting new and exciting technologies that heavily benefit from the elasticity and on-demand nature of the cloud. One of our major accomplishments is the addition of a free-to-use GitLab instance available to anyone with a CAC. This enables the department at large to experiment and dip their toes into the world of DevSecOps. With the success of this project and suggestions we've received, we're also building a fully featured and supported DevSecOps platform, complete with GitLab Ultimate, Jira, and Confluence, Vulkan from earlier. And this is meant to further help the department adopt that agile development method and continue to dip their toes into DevSecOps. Piggybacking from our GitLab implementation, we're able to bring new CI/CD-based capabilities such as DNS as code. Now, historically, DNS modifications have been done in a simple VI session and immediately deployed to production. Manual DNS modifications are very risky due to the large possibility of human error. Using DNS as code with an API-enabled DNS server, we're able to eliminate the possibility of human error. Once changes are made within the Git repository, a pipeline takes over and pushes those changes to production with admin approval, automated checks, or essentially anything else that you can put within a DevSecOps pipeline. Now, the last capability that we're excited about is our take on enterprise monitoring. We know that if a customer is notifying you that your service has failed before you know about it, you have a monitoring failure. With the complexity of delivering services from the cloud to NIPRNet and then to the internet, monitoring the services has become even more challenging. Our homegrown solution is to place commercial off-the-shelf sensors in carefully located positions based on our network architecture to evaluate the data coming in and then use that data to determine where an issue may lie. Wrapping up, DISA is constantly evolving to the needs of the Department of Defense and the warfighter. We've developed new capabilities such as Global Directory to centralize identity and authentication, and DevOps platforms to improve and streamline development processes. Additionally, we've implemented DNS as code and our prototype enterprise monitoring solution to increase reliability and reduce downtime. We're committed to providing top-tier services to our mission partners, and we're excited to continue improving and developing new technologies in the future.
Thanks, Dave. Now, if you're like me, you probably didn't understand a lot of that, but I'm glad he does. And the team that he is on and the team that he is driving, supporting the entire department. And so, Gabe, thanks again for all the great work that you do on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so just a couple other key items, and then I'll open it up for questions. So we have kind of a four-legged stool that's going on right now within the agency. And I'll kind of walk through those four legs. The first one is many of you may know that we're going through a restructure, a reorganization where we're functionally aligning more capabilities and more organizations than what we have been. Reason we're doing this is we've got to be more agile and more capable against the strategic threat. And as General Nakasone said this morning, right, the strategic threat is China. And so how do we become more agile and more capable to produce more outcomes in a much faster method? And so we are functionally aligning within the agency. In addition to that, we are going to J codes to be aligned with the joint staff, to be aligned with our combatant commands. We will have a J1 that is focused on HR, and they are only focused on HR. So as you look at Gabe and Colonel Carnes and others, and making sure that the agency has what they need through this thing we call Workforce 2025, which has 4 lines of effort, to refactor our agency so that we can take full advantage of generative AI, take full advantage of the technologies that are out there, and apply those technologies to our mission, which I would offer is the #1 thing that is missing across the department and the nation, is those individuals who understand the problem sets and understand the technology and can bring those together to produce outcomes. And that's where I need your help from an industry standpoint to bring those together. We will have a J2 intelligence function. The agency has never had one before. It is imperative that for the area of operation that General Nakasone talked about today, DISA has one of those 45 areas of operation. And so there will be an intelligence organization that is solely focused on providing the intelligence needs for the agency. There will be a J357 in charge of ops plans and exercises, very typical of a J357. There will be a J4 that's focused on warehousing, logistics, facilities. That's their sole focus. Right now we have it in too many different parts and pieces, and I would offer we are sub-optimized. There will be a J6 where we're bringing Ms. McMillan's team together with Mr. Ahmed at the Pentagon and bringing those teams together so that if you are getting endpoint services from the agency, it is consistent no matter where you are at in the world. And making sure that from a global service desk standpoint, that it is consistent capabilities, consistent user experience, consistent customer support. We will have a J8 that's focused on requirements and finance. And then Ms. Wood's team in host and compute is our J9. Now there's a little bit of uniqueness there. And then Mr. Martin is leading, although he says I can't say this, I say it anyway, our program executive offices. That is what we are going to, so that we're DISA, the agency, will have program executive offices, PEOs, that are aligned with delivering capabilities. He can correct me later. And then we have Mr. Greenwell, who's, I call it the C-suite, but it's really our enterprise integration and innovation, our chief data officer, our chief technology officer, our chief risk officer, our chief, you name it, is there, that's cutting across the entire agency and organization and bringing those new technologies together to help support. And then we have Mr. Packard. DITCO is DITCO, right? Billions, $6 billion worth of contracts annually. And so Mr. Packard is still in charge of that. That's the structural part of it. Mr. Barnhurst, my deputy, is leading our process improvement. Because if you do a restructure without process improvement, you sub-optimize. So we're bringing those together. Where's our requirements process so we can get faster in when industry comes and talks to us and taking care of the problems, bringing those requirements together. We're working that. And then other internal things. We're relooking at our strategy, right, of our 5 LOEs and the actions within and under those. And then resourcing as we get into the 25 POM. All these 4 together are coming together so that we have consistency and synchronization between structure, process, strategy, and resources. That's the first thing. The second thing, as I mentioned earlier, was Workforce 2025. And that's building the foundation of our workforce so that we can refactor, as I mentioned. And then delivering capabilities is still at the heart of what we do. And so Caroline Bean and Crystal Landemar and team are delivering IL6 collaboration capabilities. Those who remember the old Defense Enterprise email days, right? We still have DEC out there, but come 31 May, we're going to start migrating off of DEC into the new environment. A lot of work happened, a lot of work went into making that happen. And so great work by the team. And I'm looking at Mr. Greenwell because he's assured me that that from a risk standpoint, that we will be ready to go. Capabilities across the board. And I could go on, but I think I'll stop there and entertain any questions that you have for me. So thank you.
General Skinner, how are the future requirements that you've described being shared with industry?
Well, first and foremost, we have industry days. We have active engagement with industry across the board at all different levels. This week is a perfect example of where we're sharing the requirements, either through this discussion, through our industry engagements out on the floor. So there's a variety of ways that we're doing this. In addition to that, we're working hand in hand with DoD CIO as they're sharing the requirements across the board for the entire department. So that's where we're sharing it. A variety of ways is what would be the bottom line.
Thank you, General. Are we entertaining questions for Gabe?
Why, certainly. Gabe, you up for it?
Gabe, my kids are in elementary school, middle school, and early high school, and I want to steer them toward learning the computer sciences now. What did you do as a young person to make yourself such an attractive target for DISA, such that they hired you straight out of high school? Are there places they could explore on their own to get themselves excited about learning these topics? What got you interested and excited early on?
So for me, getting into DISA and actually expanding that desire to want to do cool things started with vocational school. As far as actually getting interested, I don't think you can really steer them towards it. They have to actually want to do it.
Thank you, Gabe. Our next question is for General Skinner.
Good job.
General, can you talk about DISA's or JFHQ-DODIN's contributions to supporting efforts in Ukraine?
Yes. So as Colonel Carnes mentioned, right, the first thing is we set the globe and make sure, because while a lot of regional activities are ongoing, you never know when it could go global and in different parts of the pieces. So we're continually setting the globe and setting those rheostats to make sure that from a security standpoint and defensive standpoint, we're postured well. Secondly, we're working hand in hand with General Kennedy's team as I'll say, picture window from Cyber Command into EUCOM and General Cavoli. So whatever he needs as he's setting the theater for General Cavoli, we are supporting him in making sure that he can set the theater in that regard. The other part is, which I think is the key to all that's happening, is partnerships. And we have continual partnerships with our allies and partners, as well as with EUCOM, as well as with AFCyber, JFHQ Air Force. And those partnerships in being able to share lessons learned, to share information, to share intelligence, has been a true force multiplier. And then you add in what you have done from an industry standpoint in bringing that together, that we are constantly involved and engaged with that. So I'd say across the board, there's many things that we are doing, but first and foremost, it's setting the globe for the department that then is in support of General Kennedy in what he's doing in support of General Cavoli.
Thank you, sir. Here's a two-part question, and this will be the final questions. How will Global Active Directory affect organizations that need to be able to connect, disconnect, and resync with the cloud at all classification platforms? And also, will the Global Active Directory allow for cross-tenant collaboration? For example, the ability to be an owner or even see a calendar in the Army tenant while being a member of the DISA tenant, and vice versa.
So the beauty of, and so I'll talk around this one, because this should have, Jim, you should have done this for Gabe, because he's the expert, and or Steve Wallace over there. So I'll tell you the beauty of IL6 is it's one tenant, and therefore all capabilities are going to be provided by GFUD, by the global GFUD. So that's huge, and that, oh, by the way, that's our warfighting network. The other part, I would say I don't have all the technical details of how all this fits together. I would say that DDIL environment is at the top of our list to make sure that our forces have the information that they need. And so leveraging the technology that is out there is what we're doing. And we're continuing to look. In fact, I think the Navy is the one who's actually doing use case analysis of how to leverage the global directory, how to leverage the IL5 environments. Because as everybody knows, from a collaboration standpoint, we have multiple tenants. So they're working the use cases on that will then port up into IL6. So from a technical standpoint, you'd have to ask Gabe and or Chief Wells or Steve Wallace.
General, would you like to invite Gabe or Steve Wallace up to answer that?
Yes, I would love to invite him up.
Can you repeat the question again?
Sure can, Gabe. Stand by. How will Global Active Directory affect organizations that need to be able to connect, disconnect, and resync with the cloud at all classification platforms? And will the Global Active Directory allow for cross-tenant collaboration?
So Global Directory as a service, we're going to tackle the cross-tenant collaboration first. Global Directory as a service only provides the authentication piece for 365. All of your calendar data, your distribution, they'll all live in the cloud with Microsoft. So the single tenant is how you solve that. As far as the DDIL situation, that's going to have to be something that's designed and architected. Shut off Global Directory just doesn't exist because it's a cloud environment. Not really much that we can do with that right now.
Okay, thanks, Gabe. So I was correct.
Great job.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, please hold your applause as we welcome General Lawrence back to the stage to formally thank General Skinner on behalf of AFCEA and our audience.
Okay, General Skinner, it is, all right, hold on guys, just a second, just 1 second. It's always great to partner with you and the great team members of DISA and DODIN, JTF-DODIN. We really appreciate all that you've done. In lieu of a speaker's gift, we're going to make a donation to the Fisher House in your name. And thanks again for making this a reality. Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. A brief summary of the rest of the afternoon's schedule is on the screens and at the side of the stage. And full details are available in our conference app. Note also that BlackBerry and ServiceNow have snacks in their booths until 4 p.m. today. The next main program session will be at Cyber Workforce Panel at 3:30 in Hall G. Following the panel, we'll move into the exhibit hall to close the day with our technology networking reception, which is supported by Carasoft, Ciena, Comcast Business, Fortinet Federal, and Peraton. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And we're going to talk about this again, but there's a number of questions out there. So remember to mark your calendars for Thursday afternoon. when we're going to have Meet the Leaders with the team, and you'll be able to ask more detailed questions at that time. Enjoy your afternoon.
Was afraid